What's up, everybody? It's Chris Kunz with the Rich Casno Real Estate Group. On this week's episode of Real Estate Simplified, I am joined by Jim Reed, esteemed loan officer at Summit Funding, regional vice president. He's been in the business 24 plus years. He's been a nationally recognized coach with the core training program for 18 plus years, if I'm not mistaken. One of the highest recommended and suggested trainers within the entire program. So we're very lucky to be hearing from him today. Jim, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So what I wanted to do today was just take a couple of minutes and have you explain, Jim, essentially kind of the time cost of money and why buying now might be a better option than waiting until the market may potentially soften to get into the game. So Jim's going to look at a couple of different interest rates and essentially tell us how monthly payments are going to change based off of those different interest rates. So right now, interest rates are hovering right around 3%. But what we're gonna do is, if the market were to change or if interest rates were to change, I wanna make sure that you as buyers know how that's going to impact your monthly statement and essentially how much you're gonna be able to afford as a buyer in real estate. So Jim, I'll kind of let you take it from there if that's okay.
Okay, so it's the end of April 2021. So interest rates are at historic lows and the market has been booming for about how long would you say?
3, 4, 5 years.
It just keeps booming. The prices just seem to get pushed up. And that's a combination, honestly, people don't talk about it enough. It's a combination of two things. The first thing is, honestly, the economy is doing really, really well. I know it doesn't seem that way when you watch the news, but when you look at some key numbers like jobs and inflation and gross domestic product and all these weird numbers, like lots of people are doing well and making money and affording things. You can see it. You can see it on the rivers and on the freeways, what people are driving and what people are driving around on the boat or in the truck. So people have extra money and they're buying bigger and bigger houses. Now that's one reason. The second reason is rates are really, really low. And so when I went to Sac State and when I was there, I did a paper for one of my real estate classes on the average house payment in Sacramento and how much it changed over time. And the truth is it didn't change much over time because it was a direct reflection of what rates were doing and what prices were doing. And so right now we see ourselves kind of at this part where it feels like prices are so high, is it a good time to buy, right? And so I've had that question asked to me probably 3,000 or 4,000 times in my career of doing home loans for 25 years. And I can tell you a quick short answer and then I want to show you some math if that sounds all right.
Perfect. That'd be great.
So a short answer is, well, why are you buying? Right? So like if you're buying a house right now to sell it in a year or two and make a bunch of money, maybe not. Maybe it's not the best time to buy for that. But what I find in the loans that we do together and 90% or more of the people I meet is that's not what they're doing. They're buying a house so that they can live in it. And the truth is if you're buying a house so that you can live in it, what you care about is the house, where it's at, how much the payment is. Can you see yourself living there? And then, you know, the investment part of it, I want to show you something here in a minute that maybe put your mind at ease. But in terms of why buy now, if you're buying it to live in it, yes. And here's one of the reasons why. Rent versus own. The second reason why is the effective rates on payment. So we came up with a couple quick, an easy thing so you could illustrate the difference or the impact of interest rates on payment. So what's the median price for you guys these days?
It should be right around $400,000, I'd say.
So if you do like a 3% interest rate, 4%, and 5%, what people want to know is how does that impact the payment? Mm-hmm. So for a sales price over here of $300,000, right? And we assume 20% down. So for specific numbers, if you're looking for specific numbers for your situation, what you got to do is call Chris. He'll give you some basic information and maybe we'll get together and discuss it together. But just as basic, 20% down, $300,000 house, the total payment with taxes and insurance and all that good stuff is about $1,424. Whoops, there we go. So $1,424.
So it's a $60,000 down payment on $300,000.
Right.
With a 3% interest rate gets you a monthly payment of $1,424.
With taxes and insurance and all that stuff, right? That was going to be my next question.
So
like, how many of you are paying rent more than that? A lot. And of course, there's lower down payment options and the payment goes up some, but this is just to give you an indication. So now you wait around till rates go up to 4% and the payment goes up to $1,558.
Same house,
same down payment. Interest rates go up 1%. It's $130 more a month. And then at 5%, it's $1,700. So as you wait, The cost of that is as rates go up, you're going to pay more for the same property in terms of monthly payments. So people are like, well, wait a minute, but the value will go down. Yes, the value will go down, maybe. But when you multiply that difference, right? So that's $275 difference in payment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Times 12 times 30 years. How much do you think that is?
Some quick math.
I don't know the math, so I'm gonna grab my calculator. So if we do that real quick, we're saying, okay, if we wait and buy this house, what's the difference? So the difference is the difference is 275 times 12 times 30 months, it's $99,000. That's the difference in payments over 30 years.
Interest rates go from 3 to 5%, right? 5% still historically low relatively,
My
right?
grandma told me I'd never see 5% in my life when I first got in this business.
25 years later, here we are.
$100,000.
Yeah.
So you look at a $300,000 house to go up $100,000 in value, right? That's significant.
Just based on interest rates.
Right. Just
the
based
market
on
stays
rates.
the same. Got it.
Right. So as rates go up, it costs you. It may not seem like it because it's not reflected in the price. And that's one of the points of why buy now.
So yeah, let's transition a little bit because I want to give people an idea of how the interest rate payments change based on different purchase prices as well, because you may have buyers that are working in 300K, 400K, 500K, whatever the number ends up being, but this will give people an idea of when prices change, if they ever do, kind of how far their dollar is going to carry them when they're looking at mortgage rates.
Perfect. And it seems like the first-time home buyers are buying closer and closer to $500,000. And I think that's because of those payments we just saw and how reasonable they were. I was paying rent myself recently, and I was paying almost $3,000 a month in rent. And is it okay if we do maybe $500,000?
That's perfect.
Sweet.
Yeah,
So no, same thing for 3%, 4%, and 5% on rates. Okay, and then sales price of $500,000. So the down payment is
20% is 100K.
100 grand. So be borrowing about 400,000. So you do. Total payment right here. Give me a second. For 500,000, this is 2,307. So that's including taxes and insurance. Okay, because I always want to tell people what the real payment is. If we're going to be on video and I show them a false payment, I don't really feel
you
like
want to underpromise.
it's not the right thing,
too,
right? So then rates go up to 4%. It's 25.30, and at 5%, which is still lower than rates have been 90% of the time, it's 27.68.
Real quick, what's the highest interest rate you've seen in your 25 years in the business?
Oh, so when I did my first loan was 10.5.
10.5.
Fixed rate.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would be interested to see what the numbers look like at 10.5% on a $500,000 purchase.
I can tell you at 8% rule of thumb, whatever the sales price is, that's the payment. So in other words, if you bought a $100,000 house, the payment's $1,000 with everything in it.
And that's at 8% interest.
Yeah. So if you bought a $1 million house, the payment's what?
10 grand.
10 grand. Right now, if you buy a $1 million house, the payment's around $4,500.
Jeez. And you're paying that every month for 30 years. So
crazy.
It just goes to show you how different the time cost of money is over the course of 30 years when interest rates change.
And it goes back to the beginning, right? Why are you buying a house? If it's to live in it and keep it for a long time. Like, I don't know about you, but one of the questions I ask people when they sit down is, how long are you going to keep the house? I would say 7 out of 10 say forever. Now, I don't know if they really do. But if you're keeping it forever, this is the number that matters the most.
Sometimes that's the goal, right? But life gets in the way and different life situations call for different things.
Things happen. So you can see this difference is $450 more or less, right? Times 12.
12 months.
Times 30 years.
30 years.
So let's see how much money that is.
So the difference between 3 and 5%, which if you're looking at interest rates, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a jump, right? When we do the time cost of money, over the course of 30 years,
you pay $162,000 more for the house. Jeez. Just by the rate change.
Right.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's another reason why people buy houses. So one is the primary reason why people buy houses, my opinion, is to live in it, like to have a home and raise your family. The second reason is investment and comparing it to rent. So if it's all right, what I'd like to do next is compare rent versus own in our market today because rents are super tough.
Okay, so really quickly, I wanted to have Jim kind of identify the differences between renting and owning a property in this market and how far your dollar is going to carry you and what the savings involved are associated with each type of transaction necessarily.
Cool. So I'm not a CPA. You got to check this stuff with your accountant. Okay. But I've been doing this a long time, and I've been doing this rent versus own for a long time. And I've never seen the numbers be this glaring, but it's probably a function of the market that's so good. So if you rent in the greater Sacramento area, I believe, this is from all my experience, it's about $1.25 a square foot. So if you rent a 2,000 square foot home, it's going to cost you $2,500 a month to rent it. And I think that's probably a good deal right now. I think it's probably more like closer to $3,000.
That's what area, but yeah.
Yeah. And so this is really what's going on. There's a shortage. There's no place to rent, which is putting a lot of demand on buying houses. That with rates being low, lots more people, the supply of buyers is up because they can't rent cheaply and rates are low. So there's a lot more buyers walking around, and we can only build so many houses. You know, you can't just fix the inequity right there really quickly. But
especially real quick, and especially with how expensive it is to build property in this market with
very
increased lumber
expensive
prices and things of that nature. Yep.
Right. So it's like, hey, I got to get in now. So well, that's a lot of rent, but that's a lot of payment. So if we compare the two, if you buy a $500,000 house, again, these are 20% down. Just for today's illustration, there are loans for $500,000 house you can buy with 3% down, and if you're a vet, you can buy with 0 down. So don't get hung up on the down payment, please. There's lots of solutions for that. But in that payment, principal and interest, that's the loan part, is $1,909. About $1,330 of that is interest that goes to the bank, and that's tax deductible. I'm going to show you in a minute. Property tax is about $520 a month. That's 1.25% of the purchase price in our market. So that's also tax deductible. And then there's homeowners insurance. That's to protect you against fire and theft. That's not tax deductible. So of the payment of $2,509 total, $1,850 of it is tax deductible. So if you multiply, what you do is you take that deductibility and you multiply it by your bracket. And so if you're buying a house for this much, you're probably in the 20 to 25% federal tax bracket, which is going to save you about $500 a month in federal taxes. In other words, you're going to pay less money to the government because you own if you were renting. So just that alone says you're already paying $3,000 a month for rent.
$500 a month. That's incredible.
Yes.
I did not think that it was going to be that drastic.
But that's a $500,000 house,
Sure.
right? And so then forced savings of that payment, about $575 on average the first year goes to pay down the loan. So I call that forced savings, right? It's paying down the mortgage. It's hard to get to. It's my favorite kind of savings.
So this $575 is essentially the difference between the $1,330 and the $1,909,
yes,
right? Because this
on
is your
average.
monthly payment. $1,330 goes to interest. The $575 roughly goes to your payment. This number is going to fluctuate as you go over the course of 30 years, but that's
Right.
just for some rough numbers. Okay.
And then appreciation, you know, I ask people, wait, how much, you know, what's the average annual appreciation of housing? And they're like, you know, 5, 7, 9%. Well, over 30 years, it's about 3%. It's been as much as 10 or 15 in 1 year up and as much as that down. But on average, over the long haul, remember we said 10 years of ownership to break even no matter what, or I'm about to tell you about that, is the long haul is 3%, right? And so this is wealth building. It's not cash flow, don't get confused. You're gonna build wealth by owning this house versus renting at this rate per month. That's how when your grandpa has all this equity in his house, or you hear about people who sold their house and got this big bunch of money for their next down payment. This is how it happened. That's why people still buy. And to kind of tighten this up and maybe even wrap this up, that I did some searching on the internet for a presentation I did a few years back, and I Googled, which I'm inviting you to do, what the median home price is in Sacramento and California over the last 60 years. And you'll see a chart that has some ups and downs because the real estate market does fluctuate up and down in values. But if you pick any spot on that graph and you hold on to the home for at least 10 years, you've never gotten hurt in California. In other words, the home sold for at least as much as you paid for it 10 years later.
So you're talking 07, 08, top of the market.
Any of them.
10 years.
In 08, I paid $450 for a house in Folsom that's now worth $525, for example.
There you go.
Yeah, so is there circumstances where that's not the case, where the house is dilapidated? Of course.
Sure.
But I'm talking about median averages over time. Because really we want to know, hey, should we buy a house right now? And I think the answer easily is, it's better than renting no matter what. Way better than renting. And if you hold on to it for 10 years, there's wealth accumulation, which is really what it's all about. That's why people buy real estate. Something like 60% of all wealth in America is in real estate.
Very good. Got it.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's all I got for today, man. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Thank you very much.
Pretty cool. Thanks.
Real quick before we head out, Jim, thank you again for being here. Appreciate it. I wanted to kind of get your take on the 2021 real estate market, how you see the market progressing over the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. So most of the time when people ask me that, they're asking me about rates, and the answer is I really don't know. But the people who are smart, they predict that rates are going to kind of stay flattish towards the end of the year and maybe creep up a little bit at the end of the year and into next year, but they don't see any spikes coming. But I will say no one ever sees spikes coming,
Very
right? So what could cause that is some kind of global issues can cause that. Some kind of really bad inflation could cause that. But in general, the expectation is with the current leadership in the White House, that's probably going to be tempered. And it will be fairly steady, but increasing, not decreasing. And with housing, you know, the big push right now is new homes. So you're going to see people do infill projects and build homes. But I think what will happen is home values will probably start to plateau a little bit. But with affordable money, we'll still see a lot of people buying.
Very good. Jim, again, I appreciate it. If you guys need anything real estate related, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me a DM, whatever's easiest. Otherwise, I appreciate you tuning in to today's video. Hopefully you got some good value out of it. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see everybody soon. Stay safe out there.